David Trafford always impressed me by being one of the first independent owner-operator winemaker, as well doing everything in the cellar, almost all by himself. And his farm, one of the most remote part of Stellenbosch, at least it's a long road to go there, but it's worth it, enjoys some of the highest altitude vineyards at the back of the Helderberg. And the highest one is the Syrah 393, not Shiraz, Syrah. And you will understand why. What do we have in the glass, Kathy?
I think we could spend half an hour talking about the nose of this wine, because for me this is true peppery Syrah character.
Get more data. We're going to talk for an hour.
And also there's some of this lovely scrub, the Herbe de Provence, as well on it. Some earthiness, and then some of the red Shiraz fruit. But also for me, sometimes when Shiraz fruit is really well done, and in the vineyard well done, it also brings this cassis character to the fruit. And this for me has also got cassis on the nose.
Which can be very confusing on a blind test. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've got to look for the cassis, but plus the pepper, and then taste the wine, because whereas cassis is historically your Cabernet and sometimes your Merlot, Cabernet doesn't have the same structure on the palate. The acid structure is different and the tannin structure is different for a Cabernet. This really is a beautiful example of South African Syrah at its best.
I mean, it's important to remind the fact that Syrah is not a warm climate cultivar. It's not because people try to make wine in Australia using Shiraz that eventually that becomes a reference. For me, some of the best Syrah in the world come from Switzerland, in the Valais, and they are from fairly cool climate. And the northern Rhone, when we look at Hermitage or Côte-Rôtie, it's not Provence and lavender fields. It's actually quite cold in the winter, snowy, and the summer is sometimes much cooler than what we have in South Africa. Therefore, this higher altitude Syrah from DeTrafford probably links closer to the roots of Syrah, which is a cool climate cultivar.
And I think that shows in the development of his tannins, because the tannins are really, really well resolved. And possibly he's had the time to keep the grapes, let them have a slower ripening period so that the tannins can resolve much better before he's even started making the wine.
Because that's where the big difference is. You know, if you get confused on the tasting, that, oh, this cassis reminds me so much of Cabernet Sauvignon, it has to be. This tannic texture, on the other hand, is not grippy, is very refined, very integrated, and that's usually more a sign of Syrah than what a Cabernet Sauvignon would give.
Would you say that Cabernet Sauvignon tannins, they can also be fine-grained, they can also be powdery, but they take longer to resolve in a wine than the tannins in a Syrah? Because to me, these tannins are almost perfect, and the wine is only 4 years, not even 4 years old.
Yeah, we look at the 2018 vintage, so it's fairly a young wine, but that had, yes, almost 4 years, almost 3 years from harvest. But wine is showing already some, should not say evolution, but it's not a wild animal anymore.
No.
It's civilized. And yes, where Cabernet tannins can sometimes be slightly rustic in the sense they are too grippy for too long and need more air, more oxygen, or more time to be palatable. We have here a powerful tannic structure because it's a powerful wine, but there's no harsh side to it.
They're absolutely rounded. They're really, there's no rough edges here. And then just a word on the acidity. For me, Cabernet Sauvignon's acidity is almost like a lemon twist. It's a slightly lemony acidity for me. And the Syrah acidity is more mouth-filling. I want to say softer, but how can acidity be softer? And it's not necessarily always lower, but it's just forms differently on your mouth for me. The Syrah acidity seems to be more of an enveloping acidity, whereas for me the Cab acidity is more of a punchy, right through your mouth acidity.
On the palate of that wine, you know, one of the markers for Syrah is white pepper.
Yes.
Are we on white pepper, or are we on multi-dimensional other spices? That's a difficult question.
That's a very difficult question because I'm black pepper on the nose, the typical rotundan, but oh, on the finish, it's not very obvious. Do you pick it up? Do you think it's more multi-dimensional spicy?
It's fresh spices. It's refreshing spices. Should not say on the minty side, but yeah, then maybe we're getting closer to white pepper when I'm talking about it. If I try to define it with words, and you know my English is so fluent and diverse, I'm creating new words every time I want. But yes, I think on the finish, we're going back to the white pepperiness. That is one of the key markers of Syrah. But on the nose, yes, black pepper, freshly grounded, definitely here. It's a beautiful wine, huh?
It's a lovely wine.
Thank you.